Hello, I'm Robin Gibson, and this is the Harvard House Money Morsel. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell so you get a notification of when we're releasing a new video. I'm sitting this morning with Michael Porter. Hello, Michael.
Yeah, morning, Robin.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Michael, we've presented quite often about to the skeptics in the room about Operation Vulindela, which is inside the presidency, and it's about this reform. But Operation Vulindela 2.0 is upon us. Can you give us some detail?
Yeah, Robin. So this week with a little bit of, well, there was a bit of fanfare, but actually it was probably a bit low key, which in a way also speaks to that. They launched the second phase of Operation Vulindela. I think it was on Wednesday night. Cyril was, they had a big press conference. And Robin, yeah, I think you have to give credit to Operation Vulindela for doing some of the reforms that are trying to change our structural growth. So always argue in this country that our low growth rate is not cyclical, it's actually structural. We can't grow at a higher rate because there are all these impediments to growth, And electricity is the classic example. I mean, how can you grow when you don't have power? And if you look at all the reforms that have happened in the power sector over the last 3 or 4 years, those are really directly related to Operation Vulindela and trying to unblock the regulatory environment. So yes, they launched Operation 2.0. Robin, some of the detail, I think there's a lot of continuation of what they've done before, but we're seeing some of the benefit in Transnet already. And it's interesting that some of the mining companies are starting to say, well, there's a better performance from Transnet. We haven't heard that sentence for, I can't remember how long, And so there was still quite a lot of focus on electricity. There's quite a lot of focus on municipal areas. But I think one of the interesting things for me that came out of the Operation Vulindela discussion was we've got budget 3.0 loading for the for the 21st of May.
Yes, okay.
So, we pencil in an intuition that, in February 28th, we're going to be writing about the budget, and now we're still writing about the budget. Crazy year.
Yeah.
Anyway, the budget's coming up, the third version, and there was quite a lot of hinting in that this budget is going to be quite growth orientated, which is exactly what the DA wanted all along, and saying, you've got to get growth going. So obviously there's going to need to be some spending cuts because they haven't raised the VAT, but there was quite a strong hint that there's going to be a lot allocated towards infrastructure, sort of R1 trillion, and that we're going to see some reprioritizing of how we spend our money in terms of releasing growth. So we'll wait and see what happens on the 21st of May.
Yeah.
But if that is a direction in which we're traveling, then I think that's got to be applauded.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what we've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah. So it does. I mean, in spite of all the noise sometimes that we get in the newspaper, it's really good to watch the stuff that's actually happening on the ground.
Yeah, and we have quite a few meetings with, through some of the stockbrokers that we use. We have access to Rudy Dix, who's actually in charge of Operation Vulindela within the presidency. Yeah. What a capable gentleman, really. He's very good. They're driving this process. It's obviously complicated. It takes a long time. We can always say, they should have done this 10 years ago. But at least, Robin, we're moving forward, and we know, that things take a long time in this country, but I think there is a degree of urgency, and they are tackling some really difficult issues, like electricity distribution at municipal level and the non-payment and the debts that they owe. So, Rome's not going to be built in a day, or these problems aren't going to be solved in a day, but at least we're tackling them. Yeah.
Interesting, Michael. Just on that point, I had breakfast with a man who's quite senior in the nuclear sort of realm in South Africa, and he meets with Mr. Ramagopa, our electricity minister, 4 times a year. Said to me, what a capable gent, incredible, we've got an amazing man at the helm there. So it's nice to hear that kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think you can just, Robin, we're so quick to just dismiss everybody and say there's no skills here. There's actually a lot of skills, but it's, there's obviously, if they were released to do their full potential, we'd probably be flying, but there's all the friction in between, the other sides of the coin that create so much friction. Anyway,
talking about friction, I'm sure you would have seen that that we have a new pope, and it's not Donald Trump, despite his
well, he is
tweet on the
American.
weekend. We do have an American pope, quite right.
Absolutely historic. I mean, there's
Yeah.
never been an American pope before, you know.
Incredible.
So,
Hey,
yeah.
Pope Leo. Anyway, but on the Trump side, moving across the Atlantic, or maybe we're not really going across the Atlantic, we're just going up Africa, a new US-UK agreement.
Yeah, well, maybe first of all, we should say that Trump had another little hissy fit on Sunday night, and he's like, "Oh, Hollywood, 100% tariffs on movies coming into the
Yes.
States because Hollywood's needs protection, So I think some of the unpredictability is still there, Robin. So on Wednesday, Trump started tweeting that there was a major announcement coming the next day, and people speculated it was a trade deal with the UK. Now he's talking major deal, and if you read through the detail, there's nothing major about it, Robin. I think, and I think this is maybe the point that we probably need to think about a little bit is the 10% tariffs on the UK are still there. There's some specific concessions in terms of cars. So the UK can export 100,000 cars a year, which they were doing pretty much already. So it's kind of just saying you can't get any bigger than you are already. They've reduced the duties on steel to zero. The US had put 25% duties on steel, and there were a couple of other concessions. But actually, relative to the start of the year when there were no tariffs, the UK is still worse off because that 10% base tariff remains. The US is slightly better off because they've got some concessions going into the UK. But this was not a trade deal as we might know it. This is a sort of negotiating around the fringes kind of thing, whereas these big trade deals, the UK signed one with India earlier in the week. That's taken 5 years to negotiate, and it's much more broad and things like that. So, yeah, I think, the trade deal with the UK, I mean, this is how Trump is sort of playing it. I don't think that the 10% tariffs are going away. That's pretty much a baseline that's staying there, and there might be some room for sectoral shifts. But I think this major announcement is probably a little bit of a misnomer. The other thing, sorry, are you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say that one of the reporters pointed that out in the press conference, and he didn't get a great response from Trump.
Listen, Trump likes to think that he's the savior of everything, and Robin. I mean, I just look at this and I just find it so interesting. I mean, Trump is now tweeting yesterday because Chinese trade talks kick off over the weekend, So tomorrow, China and the US are meeting, I think, in Switzerland to neutral territory to try and start their trade negotiations. And Trump is basically tweeting, buy stocks now. Now, I'm not sure you can have a president, I mean, you can actually look at it quite skeptically and say, well, what's the whole tariff thing? I mean, a massive shorting or a insider trading opportunity. I don't know. The way that policy is being decided is just not engendering any confidence in the US whatsoever, and you cannot have a president who's basically punting the market or not.
Yes, and he was pillaging Powell again, wasn't he?
Exactly.
For not cutting rates.
I just, these are all things at the fringe, and the market rallied, and Trump was sort of tweeting, buy stocks now. China's talks over the weekend, and the S&P did rally. So that kind of tells me that's just computer trading, that's just AI kind of trading, that picking up on headlines and running with it. But I think deep down, you've got to be quite concerned with that kind of rhetoric and that kind of the president focusing on that rather than actually focusing on running the country properly. Anyway, that's my take on it.
Well, probably that's a great segue into encouraging people to read the 9th of May Intuition article, which written by myself about volatility and why you should probably ignore it as a long-term investor. But Michael, it's always good to catch up and chat. Thank you for giving some insight. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.